Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we're talking about natural versus synthetic materials. This week's topic comes from Nathan. The topic text will be in the description of the video as usual, so you can read what the questioner wrote in word for word. I just have some little notes here. So the question actually came with two main subjects. The first is talking more specifically about natural versus synthetic materials and struggling with that kind of thing because, for example, gemstones, our questioner has been told or has heard that man-made gemstones can still have the associated properties of the gemstone. So a man-made version of the stone still has the same properties as the natural stone. And what do we think about that type of thing? So there are kind of two ways that goes for me, I guess we'll say. The first is when we're talking about stones that are dyed or stones that are fused, or I can't remember the word for it, but things like aqua aura and angel aura quartz that are basically fused with particles of silver or gold to the outside of them. And so it's a man-made process. They don't naturally grow like that, but you can fuse another metal or another substance to them, and it changes the color of them, and it gives them different magical properties, because then you're looking at the properties of silver or gold in combination with the properties of quartz. Things like that I absolutely think are cool. They're not technically natural. They are man-influenced, human-influenced. But I think it's kind of cool to learn about how those things are altered and what new properties you get out of those combinations. So there are things like that, but then there's also things like, you know, when I was in junior high or elementary school, actually, power bead bracelets were a popular thing, and I still have a lot of those, and I still have a lot of the beads, and what they were was just plastic beads, and they were labeled as being turquoise or amethyst or aventurine, but like the amethyst beads were just purple plastic round beads. They weren't stone in any way, shape, or form, and you know, they sold them as like, this is your power bead, and this one's for intelligence, and this one's for health, and it was based on what the gemstone really would have been for, but the beads themselves were not gemstone. And when I was younger, I treated them like they were for that real thing. I would wear the one that I wanted for that day. If I had a test coming up, I'd be wearing the amethyst with the tiger's eye or with the quartz or something like that, and I would create these combinations based on it. So some of it in that sense has to do with what does it do for you psychologically? What do you believe is gonna be the meaning of it? But also, of course, the plastic in itself to me has no meaning, but it's the color really that I associate with things, because colors absolutely have meanings and properties within magic. So when we're talking about something like a colored plastic, no, I don't think the plastic is something that I would prefer to use in magic. I would always prefer to go with a more natural material, even if it's another stone that's been dyed. At least it is a natural stone underneath that, whether it's a rock of some kind or whatever. I would rather use that than plastic. But when we're talking about something that is entirely synthetic, there is still the matter of color that you could take into account. And then there are things that we consider gemstones or semi-precious stones that are completely man-made, like I believe pyrite is a man-made stone, and I believe that that has magical properties, absolutely, because it's something that we use as a gemstone. It's not a gemstone, but you know what I mean. So certain things like that are minerals or that are aggregates of something that maybe only came into being because of humans, yeah, I think those have magical properties. But yes, I think that covers the gemstone example part of this topic. The next thing, part of what the questioner said, I will quote here, I wrote it down. Magic, this is their belief, that, quote, magic is in nature, therefore things that do not occur naturally in our world are not of magic, end quote. And this is something that they are asking us to give our opinion on and possibly challenge, because maybe they'll change their mind if there's a good point against it. Or about it, I should say. So yeah, magic is in nature, therefore things that do not occur naturally in our world are not of magic. This is my belief, okay? Everything that I'm about to say is how I think of it. It's not meant to be a judgment on how anyone else thinks of it. Just saying my view, okay? In my belief, in my practice, in my path, magic is everywhere. Magic is in everything. You can't really get away from it. Everything in the world is nature, and all of that is magic. We are nature. We are not apart from nature. As much as a lot of society works against nature and doesn't want to be connected with nature, or seemingly is disconnected from nature, we are nature. We are part of it, and that's how I try to live my life. We are part of this web. So for me, what could be occurring in our world that is not part of it? What part of our world would not be of magic if I believe that everything is of magic? As I said previously, of course I prefer to use things that are obviously natural versus synthetic, in the way of, like, I wouldn't really want to use plastic if I could at all prevent it, but I also don't like to use plastic a lot in my own life if I can help it. If I can't, I recycle it. So I try to keep it all part of that cycle of nature. I try to keep it all within its role in nature. Magic is everywhere. We are nature. I did a video on my personal channel, which is CuteWitch772, for those of you who may be just tuning in, during one of my Vlog Every Day in April years. It was a few years ago now. It was the 4th day of April, so it's Veda 4, and it was about nature, and it was about David Abram, because he was speaking at the university where I went to undergraduate school. It was actually considered a college here in the States. It's not technically a university because it did not have a graduate program. That's the differentiation that we make in the States. But I know that outside of the United States, university is the term that would be used. College means something else elsewhere. But anyway, he was speaking there, David Abram, and he was talking about nature and the significance and the spirituality of breath. He said a lot of cool things. I really enjoyed it. If you watch that vlog, I'm very impassioned about about the subject. It's actually funny when I watch it now. But one of the things that he was talking about was because this woman had been saying, you know, who experiences nature anymore? You know, we live in cities, we don't live out, we don't live on farms, we don't farm our own food anymore, some of us, most of us. Who really experiences nature anymore? And David Abram was talking about how everything is nature, and no matter where you are and what you're doing, you are always in relation to nature, because you're on Earth, which is nature. One thing that he specifically said, as an example, was, okay, say you're up in this skyscraper in some huge urban city. You're way up in this skyscraper, right? And you're surrounded by glass and metal and everything that's created by mankind, people. And then you look out, though. You look out and you see this vast expanse of the sky, and you look down and you see the ground, and you might just be standing still and slightly feel, or maybe if you're looking at it from the ground, looking up at the skyscraper, you see the way that the wind causes the skyscraper to slightly sway, that these things are not built solidly, they're built to withstand the nature around them. And so, like many trees that we talk about, they are meant to sway and bend with nature instead of being a blockaded force against it. And so even when you're up in this skyscraper in the middle of a city, you are part of nature. You are being affected by the cycles of nature, and you are subject to the laws of nature, such as gravity. You are always in a relationship with the earth, because gravity is always working upon you, pulling you down to the earth and keeping you grounded. There are always laws of nature that we are subject to, even in magic. That's a belief of mine as well, that magic works within the laws of nature, and anything that is capable by magic does not work outside the laws of nature. The laws of nature may be bigger and more expansive than we yet understand, but anything that is capable by magic is necessarily capable by nature. I understand what we mean when we're talking about things like plastic toy swords being used for athames and like, I get that when people are like, no, I don't want to use that, that's not natural. I think there's a place for that, depending on the ritual that you're doing, depending on what you're going for, what kind of relationship, what kind of experience you are trying to create. I think a plastic toy sword could be a perfect element for your ritual. But so I get what you're saying when we're talking about not wanting to use synthetic things versus natural things. Absolutely. I mostly work with flowers and wood and herbs and rocks and natural gemstone chips and things like that. But there are so many things that are created by man that I also feel are okay. And there are things that are created by man that I wouldn't necessarily prefer to use. And yet, yeah, in my belief, they're not natural, but they are part of and in relation to all of nature just as we are. So I think beyond that, it's whatever works to you, whatever speaks to you. So it'll be up to you to decide whether a certain thing is something that you want to use in your path or not. But especially if it's a case of you really want to do a certain spell and or whatever it is, a ritual of working, it doesn't have to be a spell, but if you want to do some kind of exercise or activity to better your spiritual life and you don't have a certain something, of course in my path I could either do without it, because I do a lot with symbolism and not needing the thing in itself, or you may decide to use something that maybe isn't as natural, quote unquote, as you would like. You may decide to substitute that, keeping in mind that, well, this is part of everything, this is part of the web, I am part of the web, and so whatever it's through me and my energy, if it conducts your energy for you and if it does the job for you, do it. As long as you're not harming anyone, do what you want, right? That's what the read is about, if you're someone who follows that, as I attempt to and strive to in my path. That's what I would say. That is my advice, which is what read means as well. It is really, really difficult to only use things that are completely 100% natural, especially in the society that we live in. I don't know where our questioner is from. I don't know where all of you individually are from. You're from all over the place. But I mean, we all are part of a society that enables us to use the internet. So I can at least infer that much about where you're living and how you're living, that you have access to this technology. And, is technology natural? We've talked about that in the past. We've talked about techno-pagans and things like that and whether that's okay. And I think this is somewhat related. Is that unnatural or is it part of us? And are we unnatural or are we part of nature? Depends on your view. I think it's all interconnected, and that's what I'm striving for in my path. If that's something that speaks to your path, then I hope that helps you. If not, that's okay too. Briefly before I go, I have been announcing some things on my personal channel. I just announced the launch of my Patreon campaign. If you'd like to check out the video for that, it's on my personal channel. And by the time you see this video, I will be posting another announcement on my channel either today, Tuesday, or coming up very soon in the week about a specific goal that I am trying to raise some money for so that I can go to this thing and have this experience. So please check those out on my personal channel and let me know your thoughts in the comments. And until next week, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.